past few years, we've seen many natural disasters and emergencies take place. These natural disasters and emergencies include flooding, hurricanes, wildfires, and the list keeps going. These have left many individuals with nothing left and have also claimed many lives. Welcome to Mission Ready Society. I'm your host, Orrin Price, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about creating an emergency plan or an emergency family plan. This is important to know, that way the individuals in your family or you yourself have a safe plan to either evacuate your neighborhood or get out of a sticky situation. All right, so for demonstration purposes for this video, I have created a simple layout of a home. Obviously, for you, you're going to want to make this tailored to your specific house. That way you know where everything is. So the first step to creating a family plan is making a layout of your home. So as you can see in this simple one-story home, we have 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, a kitchen, a living room, the entryway, and a pantry. These little marks are doors, something that you may have learned, I don't know, somewhere drawing floor layouts, that these are little door symbols. As you can see on this house that I have created, we have 2 exits and entrances. We have the main entry and we have a side entry and exit. So again, this is just a simple layout. You're going to want to make this tailored to your specific home. So you're going to want to make a sheet of paper for each floor of your house. So if you have your first floor, second floor, basement, you name it. But again, this is just a simple one-story home that I've created for demonstration purposes. So the first thing that we're going to do in creating an emergency plan is knowing where we'll call them sensitive items are. So we're going to want to know where like first aid kits are, and where fire extinguishers are, and our circuit breaker for our house for all of our electrical. And if you have gas oven, like if you have a gas oven or anything that runs off propane, your hot water tank, knowing where those shut-off valves are. Those are all important things to know in case of emergencies. So for this demonstration, we're going to say that there's a fire extinguisher here. We'll use little dots to represent fire extinguishers in this house. So we'll say there's 1 fire extinguisher in the kitchen. We'll have another one in the pantry, and we'll say that we have 1 more fire extinguisher. Let's see. We'll say there's another one in the bathroom, I guess. That's kind of a random place, but just for this, we're just going to say that it's in the bathroom. So we now know ourselves that where our fire extinguishers are in our home, and this sheet of paper and your floor layouts of your house are important items to share with anybody else in your household. So, you know, your partner, your children, if they're old enough to understand. But yeah, so the next item for this demonstration, we're going to say is first aid kits. So we're going to say that we have 1 first aid kit in the bathroom, and we'll use little open squares. And we'll say that we have another first aid kit in the kitchen. So that we now know where our first aid kits are. And then next, we're going to say our breaker panel or our circuit breaker panel for our house. And we're going to say that that is right here. And I'm just going to use a line to represent that. So for this demonstration, we're going to say that there's no there's no propane or any sorts of gas being used in this household. Maybe all the appliances are electric, and hot water heater is also electric. So we now know for this floor layout of this home that we have 2 first aid kits, we have 3 fire extinguishers, and we have 1 breaker panel. We know where all of these are, right there. And these are all sensitive items and important things to know in your household. All right, so next we're going to want to plan exit routes for our home. Usually you probably want to do this with maybe a few different colored markers, but for this case, I only have one colored marker, black. So we're just gonna use that, and we'll use solid lines and dashed lines. So we're gonna want to kind of plan our routes for kind of each room, I guess. So we'll say it's good to maybe mark out your windows in your house as well. So we're just gonna kind of throw in some windows here. We'll say, I guess, just real quick. Got some windows here, there. And there's a kitchen window, window, little bathroom window. Oops. Again, this is just a rough drawing, so make it tailored to your specific home. So now we're going to say that, we're going to plan exit routes from each room in the house. So we'll start with bedroom 1. So if we're in bedroom 1, we're going to leave bedroom 1, come through the kitchen, through the entryway, and straight out the front door. That's bedroom 1. Now if we're in bedroom 2, we're going to leave bedroom 2, straight out the front door. Again, these are your primary routes, so we can just kind of do one for each room: kitchen, front door, pantry, leave the pantry, come through the kitchen, out the front door. Now, here's where, we'll do bathroom next. Bathroom, out the bathroom, through the front door. Now, living room, we're going to do a little bit differently. Primary route for the living room is going to be from the living room, out the side door. Now, there's your primary routes of exit. Now, we're going to plan a secondary route. So I'll use dashed lines this time instead. So for bedroom 1, this is where you can kind of decide what you want to do with this demonstration house being only 1 story. Maybe your second course of action to exit the home instead of leaving the front door, if you can't for whatever reason. We'll say maybe, you're in a flood, or, your house is on fire, maybe by chance. But we're going to say that in this case, the secondary course of action to leaving the house from bedroom 1 is going to be through one of the windows. Again, this is only a 1-story home. So if you have a 2-story, 3-story, so it be at home, I'm just going to throw little dots on each of these. Then obviously you're not going to want to jump out your 2nd-story window or 3rd-story window, because then you're going to have to plan those routes accordingly. So for bedroom 2, again, we're going to say that the secondary exit plan is going to be through one of the windows. Now, the living room, we're going to say, is still going to be through that side door, because that is the closest exit. Now, obviously, if you're in the entryway, you're just going to go through the entrance to the home. If you're in the pantry, we're going to say that the secondary course of exit for the pantry maybe is going to be into bedroom 1 through the side window. Obviously, you can kind of play with this. Maybe you don't need to plan out as many routes as I'm doing here. But again, this is just demonstration purposes, and you're going to want to make it tailored to your specific needs. So bathroom, we're going to say, is through bedroom 2, out the side window. And we're going to say from the kitchen, maybe the kitchen window is too small. So we're also going to say that the secondary course of action for the kitchen is also going to be through the bedroom 1 window. Now, that's all the rooms in this home. But again, make it tailored to your specific house. So plan out your routes for, your 2nd story or your 1st story or your basement, and planning out your routes for where you're going to exit your home from, whatever specific floor you're on. All right, so here is where it starts to become a little bit situational, depending on what, situation you have found yourself in or that you have been unwillingly placed in. So this is another little diagram or representation of a neighborhood, and I have put a star next to my home, we'll say. So this is going to represent obviously your house, so star above or next to your home, and then you're going to want to draw a little layout of, your neighborhood, your neighbors' houses, the roads, a little bit of like an aerial shot of what your neighborhood looks like from above. So steps 2 in creating a family emergency plan or an emergency plan is to plan out meeting points from once you have exit your home. But like I said, this is a little situational. So these can also be meeting spots for maybe not everybody is home, and they can meet you there. But maybe these meeting locations are somewhere beyond just your neighborhood. Again, depending on what situation you found in and how extreme it is, maybe you need a meeting location that is several miles away. And, that situation could be maybe you live in a city and things are starting to heat up, or you find yourself in some severe flooding like we've seen in Florida, and your neighborhood is, that your neighborhood is going to be underwater, so you need to evacuate. So in a case scenario where you need to evacuate or get yourself or your family out of that situation, it's important to have meeting locations that are further away. For this demonstration, though, we're going to plot some meeting points within the actual neighborhood. So we're just going to say that one meeting point is going to be exit the house, cross the road, and the first meeting location is going to be just on the other side of the road from our home. Now, the second location is going to be down the road here, a little ways, come down here, and this is going to be the second meeting location. Obviously, this is going to vary depending on what your neighborhood looks like and where you can actually meet. Might be closer, might be further. And then again, regarding your situation, maybe it's a lot further. And again, you're just going to really have to tailor this to yourself. But these are all similar principles, no matter what situation you find yourself in. Now that we have gone over some of these little diagrams and floor plans and kind of aerial shot of our neighborhood, what's important to talk about now, step 3, is communications. And so I like to have a primary plan for communication, and I like to have a secondary plan for communication. And obviously you can keep going, you can have a third, a fourth, but I suggest at least a minimum of 2 routes for communication. So we're going to call our first one is going to be our primary form of communication, and then our secondary is going to be our emergency form of communication. So I'm kind of done with our diagram here now, but primary communication for this demonstration, we're going to say is just cell phones. Easy, most people have them. Obviously, if you have self-service, it's easy to get a hold of your loved ones or anybody else that you might need to get a hold of. So that's going to be our primary source of communication. And it's easy, it's simple, hop on the phone, send a text, let somebody know what's going on. Now, our emergency form of communication for this is going to be radios. And I'll go into more depth on different forms of communication later on this channel. I'm going to make a more in-depth video, but today we're just going to kind of brush over it. So our second form of communication is going to be radios. And you're going to want to make sure that, again, everybody in your family or anybody else who you are including into this emergency plan knows your primary and your secondary form of communication as well. And if your secondary or your emergency form of communication is radios, you're going to want to make sure that everybody you're trying to get a hold of has access to a radio, obviously. Because it would be a little silly to, hop on a radio and try telling somebody you're in trouble, but obviously they don't have a radio, so you're talking to nobody. Common sense. Just make sure everybody else also has that form of communication. And something that's actually that I found interesting that I didn't know until recently was if you have an iPhone, obviously not everybody does, but if you do have an iPhone, they have incorporated what do I want to call it? A system, we'll say, that allows you to send messages via satellite. So, there's been devices out on the market now for a little while that you can, use to send text messages by satellite. So if you find yourself in a situation where you don't have any cell service, you're unable to send messages whatsoever, then you can use either if you have a device that allows you to, or like I mentioned, if you have an iPhone, you can now use your phone to send messages to your loved ones or anybody else that you need to send a message to. So that is a very helpful piece of equipment or tool to have. Again, I don't know if Android has that. Myself, I have an iPhone, so I don't know. Let me know though down in the comments if Android does, because that is also cool. But again, important to know that you can send messages even if you don't have satellite, which can help you in emergency situations. You can also call emergency services through that same platform as well on your iPhone. But yeah, so that is communications. And again, like I said, I'll go into more depth in a future video on forms of communication. All right, so now that we've gone through these 3 steps of planning out exit routes and sensitive items in our home, our meeting locations in our neighborhood or beyond, and talking about forms of communication, it's now important to discuss what to do after you have gotten a hold of your loved ones or anybody that you need to get a hold of, and you've met at your meeting locations. So now it's important to talk about what to do after the fact or what the next step is. So this, again, is where it's going to kind of vary depending on your specific situation. For this demonstration, though, we're going to say, in theory, that this neighborhood got flooded. And we'll say everybody was in the home. Everybody got out. They met where they needed to meet. There was no need to, we'll say they called loved ones beyond their household via cell phone. So they had cell service, so they used their primary source of communication. Now they need to think about what to do next. So for this demonstration, like I said, this neighborhood is getting flooded. They have received a warning that this specific area is going to see severe flooding. Maybe they're caught in a hurricane, or like my home state itself saw heavy rainstorms, and their neighborhood's about to get flooded. So what's next for this family is they're going to travel to a loved one's house, we'll say, and that's going to be where they stay for the meantime. Now, again, it's going to vary depending on your situation. Maybe your next step is also to stay at a loved one's house. Maybe your next step is to go to a designated location that you have built or set out for your family to go to and spend time at. But again, who knows how long your situation that you found yourself in is going to last. So, just find somewhere that you are going to be able to stay at for whatever extended amount of time. and that's going to be kind of your next step. Apologies, the plow went by my house. It was a little loud, so I wasn't sure what it was at first, but I'm back. So where'd I leave off? So yeah, talking about our next step here. So again, maybe you meet at a family's house, maybe you meet at a designated location that you've set out, but you're gonna want to wait out the situation. So in this case, this neighborhood has been flooded. Maybe they can go back to their home, and that's what they do after the water has receded, and maybe they can't go back to their home. And then in that case scenario, you're obviously going to have to stay at your designated location for an extended period of time until you can relocate. But it's very situational, and kind of that last and final step is giving yourself a designated location to move to, or to put yourself at in the meantime while you're waiting out either a natural disaster or whatever emergency that you found yourself in. So these are kind of the steps to creating an emergency or emergency family plan. These 4 steps are kind of the basic breakdown of what you kind of need to do, what you need to let your others know in your household. That way everybody knows what to do in a situation. And it's important to kind of, think about maybe all the situations that you might find yourself in. Obviously, this is also very locational. So for me, living in Vermont, I don't, where I live, I don't see any severe flooding. The past 2 summers, we have been hit with severe flooding, but luckily I live up on elevated ground, so my house is all right. So that's not something that I necessarily have to worry about too much. Obviously, it is something I have to keep in the back of my mind in case, the road washes out or whatever. Wildfires aren't too common here either. So, just finding yourself, thinking about what different situations you might find yourself in. One thing that is common for me, though, is power outages. And where I live, there's not a ton of service. So again, having those different forms of communication is important, because we have gone about a week without power before. So, knowing what to do in different situations. So think about where you live, think about your location, think about what situation you might find yourself in, and kind of tailor this emergency family plan to your specific needs, is really what it comes down to. But again, this video is just to demonstrate kind of the core principles of what you need to know when creating an emergency plan or emergency family plan. Thank you for watching today's video. It's important to have an emergency plan or emergency family plan in place. It's an inexpensive way to prepare yourself or your family, and as something that the viewers will learn of this channel is that I like quality, but I also appreciate inexpensiveness. So I'm gonna do my best to show how to be prepared and different gear that, it doesn't cost you an arm and a leg, in future episodes and for the future of this channel. But again, it's important to have this kind of plan in place. That way you know what to do when you find yourself in different situations. So I hope that you enjoyed today's video and that you gained something out of it. Again, this is just a kind of basic model, and you'll have to tailor it to your specific needs. But this is kind of the core principles and the basics. So I hope you gain something from it, and I'll catch you in the next one.